While on vacation, I came across these vintage brass bookends at an antique store. One I had already polished, and it turned out so pretty that I thought I would share with you how to polish up tarnished brass. I have to credit my husband with this. He handed me this tube of flitz that is used to polish metal, plastic, fiberglass, and it even says it restores paint. I used an old rag or cloth and squeezed just a dab on there and worked in sections rubbing it in. Then I would use a dry section of the cloth to kind of buff it out. The more you rub, the more polished it gets, restoring the shine. I used a rotary tool with a polishing wheel, I guess that's what you call it, to get into the smaller crevices. I left some of the tarnish to stay true to the vintage look. Bookends are a great way to showcase some of your favorite Christmas books as well as other books throughout the year. I want to say we paid $20-something for them, but I found some on Facebook Marketplace for much cheaper. So if you like this look, then shop around for a good deal. I also found this large vintage Baldwin candle holder at the same antique store for 16 bucks. It gives me that Scrooge burning the midnight oil vibe. From what I've seen online, I got a pretty good deal. I gave it a good cleaning and polished it. It originally came with a glass shade, but this one was missing. I looked online to find one, and they were a bit pricey and not the right size, so I came up with this idea. I got a wine cork and checked to see if it would fit in the candle holder part, and it fits snug, which is what I want. Then I took a blade and marked a line even with the holder. I put it on a self-healing mat and cut through using a fresh blade. Need that fresh blade. This 527 multi-use glue works on cork and glass, among other things. I'm going to apply the glue to the smooth end of the cork and attach it to the bottom of a glass hurricane from the Dollar Tree. I put it in the center, eyeballing it first, but then I took a ruler and went around checking for evenness. The next day I put it on a holder, and as you can see, it's not going anywhere. I could leave it as it is, but I wanted to dress it up a bit. I have this wired garland, and I began with wrapping around this pine needle stem, leaving a tail. I got these picks from Hobby Lobby, and I pulled them apart and wrapped the wire garland around each one. I had 3 of the long needle pieces, so I spaced them out evenly. Once it was long enough, I wrapped it around the center, cut the wire, and twisted it together. To add more, I removed the glass to make it easier to work with. I had these bells forever, and the paint is a little worn off in places, which is great for the look. I strung 7 bells on the floor wire to look like a cluster of berries. I used all that I had, which I ended up with 5 clusters. I wrapped the wire around the garland and then around the cluster to secure it, and used the wire cutters to cut off the extra. I spaced them out evenly. I had these bells from last year that I spray painted black and put gold leaf rub and buff on them. I strung them on wire and attached them the same way. I'm in the South, and summers can get pretty hot, and hot glue just ain't going to hold up in my storage building. I put a few pine cones in to fill in any gaps and to add more layers. These leather mittens were what my husband grabbed. They were originally $24, but while having a conversation with the owner, we realized we were from the same hometown, and he was such a sweet person and gifted it to us. The inside parts didn't look too bad, so I folded them over. I found these 2 buttons in my stash, and I sewed them on using a tapestry needle and cotton thread. I strung jute string through each one and then added some hot glue to keep the cuff in place. I've had a child-sized sled for years that I hang ice skates on. I have an adult-sized sled given to me by my sister that needs some love. So the first thing I did was take a sanding block and removed all the loose rust. I also went over the wood to smooth it out a bit. I didn't try to make it perfect, just enough to clean it up. It was a hot day, so I hosed it all off. It dried pretty quick in the heat. I coated the whole sled with beeswax. I might go back later and give it a coat of poly, but for now it just needs to be conditioned because this thing was thirsty. I did a little foraging in my yard to get these cypress branches. I layered them on top of each other to make a swag. I connected them with a zip tie, then wrapped it with some jute. I tied the swag to the front of the sled and layered mittens on top the jute string. I made a bow with this red velvet ribbon that I purchased at Hobby Lobby using a red pipe cleaner. I used that same pipe cleaner to tie the bow to the sled, and this is a wired ribbon, so I was able to shape it up, giving it somewhat of some waves, and just trim the ends at an angle. Then I just tied on some bells from a garland I made last year. Now on to my Goodwill finds. I saw these brass bugle candle holders and just had to have them. They had 2 price stickers on them, one for $2.99 and one for $4.99. Not sure what I paid. Either way, it was a good deal. They came without the votives, but that's okay. I removed the dated pieces and gave them a good polishing. Boy, did these things shine. Look at this before and after. I didn't really want to put anything else on them, but they are candle holders, so I went on Amazon and I ordered some flameless candles with a remote. On to the last Goodwill find, which was this ratty looking thing here. It was $3.99 and not brass, but it's got to be vintage. The first thing I had to do was remove that mess. It was connected by 2 wires, and I just untwisted them with my pliers, pulled it off, and removed the stickers on the bottom. I stripped this thing down to the wire because I needed to use it instead of going out to buy something. I used some of those sprigs from Hobby Lobby and attached them by placing them on the wire and wrapping the bottom in with the florist wire. I did this throughout the length of the wire. I decided to use those gold berries, so I spaced them out. I closed it with a zip tie. Then I wrapped the ring with brown floral tape to cover the wires for a clean look. I cut 2 pieces of floral wire to reattach it by feeding the wire through the holes and twisting the ends together with pliers. I added some more gold bells and the cluster of red bells. I also added some pine cones. Here's a tip on how to attach a pine cone with wire. Simply take a floral wire, wrap it around the cones, pulling it deep into the scales and giving it a good twist. I wrap it around the stem and around itself. I placed this on my dining room table. I love how all these turned out, and I hope it inspires you. Merry Christmas, and thanks for watching.